Call to order the Oak Creek Fire Protection District Board meeting for June the 19th. It is the time where we not only call to order, but we always have our Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask Mr. Chuck Newby, Director Newby, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance for his first meeting.
Will do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Newby.
This meeting is being recorded.
Sorry about that, everybody.
No need to address that now. All right, so as we move through our agenda, this is really the beginning of our fiscal year in terms of Board of Directors. We have some order of business, and that's to swear in those that were recently elected in the Oak Creek Fire Board of Directors election. Chief, would you be the person that would swear us in?
I believe it has to be a board member.
Okay, the secretary is not eligible, so and also, real quick, let me jump back. Director, is he, no, is is Director Wagner on?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Okay, that, I just wanted to double check before we got started. Director Wagner will be working from afar today on Zoom. So, Sharon, would you provide the dubious honors of swearing Director Newby, myself, and Director Baker?
Certainly, I don't know what I'm supposed to say though.
Well,
Do I have a script?
we'll have a script here for you in just a second.
Yeah, Barbara should be having
Yay, what? Script. Well, I think that you just need to read this top part, yeah. Okay.
Separately or all together?
We do all
I
together?
think you can all do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Awesome.
tell you what, Sharon, just so that Ms. Melissa can see, would you mind stepping just forward? Thank you.
Do you think I'm supposed to read the oath of office? I'm just making sure. Because it says I,
Yeah,
so.
I state your name.
Okay, so I think we have to do one at a time, because each one of us
Okay.
has to state their name.
Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have to say, I, Melissa Baker,
I, Melissa Baker,
will faithfully support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado and the laws made pursuant thereto, and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Director of Elk Creek Fire Protection District, on which I'm about to enter.
here, can I have the paper?
No, you do remember?
Do you, Melissa Baker?
I will yes, I will, but I think I'm supposed to read it. Isn't that how we've always done it?
I think so, yeah.
Will faithfully support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado and the laws made pursuant thereto, and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Director of Elk Creek Fire Protection District upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
And I'm going to do that. So, I, Greg Pixley, will faithfully support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado and the laws made pursuant thereto. I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Director of Elk Creek Fire Protection District upon which I'm about to enter.
So,
I've already taken my oath.
You have?
I have, yes.
All right. Perfect. Who swore you in?
Actually, a notary public.
All right. Duly noted. We'll be sure that's in the...
Yeah, it's on file.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so as we swear in, congratulations to Director Newby, congratulations to Director Baker, and we will move into the swearing, after the swearing of board members, into the assignment of board seats. Typically what we do is we go through and assign, or we, as a board, vote for president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. This evening, we have all 4 openings because of the beginning of our 12 months. So I will take or entertain a motion for president.
I would motion to assign Greg Pixley the role of president.
I accept the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Okay, keep track of
Any abstention? Check that in.
No, aye.
Perfect. The next, we will move into a motion for vice president. I would be honored to nominate Director Wagner in that role. Would I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor. Then
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Next, we will move to our illustrious treasurer, and I know that we're very proud to have somebody represent that in the past. And I would love to make the motion for Director Woods to maintain the position of treasurer for the board of directors. Would I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
No, you don't get the vote.
I don't get to vote.
No.
You could have said you declined. That would have been your only option. Now you're stuck.
It's stuck now for another year.
All right, and then finally, the position of secretary. Would entertain a motion for the position of secretary.
I would make a motion to retain Director Melissa Baker as secretary.
Awesome, I might have a second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous as well. That moves us through item number 4, and actually item number 5, because we have a roll call of members, the 4 sitting before you, and Director Wagner online. We all heard his voice. So I asked my fellow board members to look at the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions that need to be made to tonight's agenda that sits in front of you? Kent, do you have anything?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
No.
All right, and finally, Melissa? Nope. All right, so we will accept the agenda as presented. The next item of business is to approve the regular meeting minutes for May. We've had a chance to look at it. I'll give us just one more opportunity as we go through. Kent, did you get a copy, Director Wagner?
I did,
Okay.
and I've reviewed. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Okay, I see nothing.
I'm good with him.
All right, with no additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes, I would accept a motion to approve May 2020's Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors minutes.
I would move the minutes as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And Chuck, unfortunately, won't be able to vote on this, so,
Oh, okay.
and I would assume you're going to abstain just because you weren't a board member.
Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
So, you've already got that for this one for those steps. All right, we are flying through our agenda, and that leads us to financial matters, and luckily we have retained the fine services of Director.
Otherwise, I'd be passing this on. Trust me.
That would have been interesting if somebody else had
We are going
I
to,
think Ben is
Yeah.
what,
Like
like,
leaders of
as
craft.
Yeah, we're just gonna put on screen as soon as that is up.
soon as it's up and,
We didn't want that in the
I need to
background.
dim the lights maybe, otherwise. we can't see. Yeah, it's on your screen. Okay, we need page 1 first.
That is, that's,
That's page 1?
yeah, I got 2 documents
Uh-oh,
and an email.
maybe I sent you the wrong one. Because that's actually not page 1.
I got points and then graphs.
I just forwarded it.
Okay, and let me try it again. Ben, sorry.
my page 1 shows labor, is the beginning.
Really?
Unless you updated it. Is it the overview? This is different. Is this what you would rather have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, good. Okay, so, just as a preface, I've actually changed a few things from last month. I met with Barbara and Chief to go over specifically labor in terms of forecast. There are a couple things actually one big thing that I didn't take into account when I did the labor forecast, and that is there are departments that we bill out. We bill out 100% of fuels, 50% of maintenance, and 50% for prevention. So when I put together the original forecast for labor, and we'll get to labor in a minute, but when I put together the original forecast for labor, I didn't exclude the amounts that we bill out from the labor dollars and therefore the labor forecast. So when we get to labor, I'll go into that in a little more detail. But I have to change some assumptions. So the first page, we have an overall view. Overall revenue is tracking according to and in line with the annual budget. This is a forecast, it's a linear forecast, so it's 1/12 each month, accumulating to the total forecast of $5,800,935. So as you can see, revenue is on track to be where it's supposed to be by the end of the year. When we actually get into a little more detail on revenue, we'll see some of that. If you'll scroll down just a tiny bit, that's great. Okay. So expense currently is running below the linear overall forecast. We'll get into some particulars about expense when we get to the graphs on expense. If you want to scroll down then, net income is looking very much like last year. We have bumps in April, and we have a bump in June. That's usually because property tax revenue comes in bulk amounts, because a lot of people divide their property tax revenue payments between the two cycles. So revenue and expense overall look pretty good. So page 2, our biggest revenue bucket is property tax. And it looks really weird on a monthly basis, again, because of the bumps. So our monthly forecast, you see a bump in March, a bump of actuals in March, and then again you see a bump in July. So that's a monthly forecast. If you'll scroll down to the annual forecast, you can see that revenue is tracking pretty close year to date. We're looking at $2,275,000 versus $2,207,000. I'm echoing. Versus $2,207,000. So again, the biggest bulk of our revenue number is property tax revenue, and it is tracking exactly the way that it's supposed to. Because what you see in the latter months is that it levels off, because there's really not a lot of money coming in. Just people that are delinquent, and I guess I'm paying their property taxes are coming in. So we go to page 3. Graph on page 3. So this is where I had to make some changes to what we were looking at. There's 3 labor graphs. The first labor graph is total labor adjusted by the billed amounts that we bill out. We assume that we're going to get that money. So I deduct the money that we bill out from the forecast and from the actuals, so that you can actually see the tracking of labor. So this first one is total labor adjusted for the amounts that we billed out, and those are percentages. So I have to take those departments and deduct those percentages in dollars from the total labor. So that's what you're seeing there. You scroll down, I have a year to date, and again what you're seeing is This is total labor adjusted for the amounts that we bill. What you're seeing is labor is tracking pretty darn close to what we forecasted. Slightly over, but not a lot. So the next page, please. If anybody has any questions, holler. Okay, so this is the labor number that has the adjustment for the departments we bill out and adjustment for served labor. So what you have here is labor adjusted without served. And again, what you're seeing is it's tracking pretty darn close on a monthly basis. And if you scroll down then, it's tracking pretty darn close on an annual basis also. I had to go back to my forecast assumptions for 2021 and make the same adjustments to last year's actuals to get the percentage spread as I do for this year. So just FYI, I'm going to be looking at this again because I've looked at it a bunch of times, and sometimes you need to look at it after you step back a little bit. The beauty of a forecast is it has to be flexible. It has to account for what you think is going to happen, but it also has to be adjusted based on some extraordinary type things that might come through. So a forecast is a forecast. It's not an absolute, and it never will be an absolute. Next graph. I did a SURF only, and SURF looks a little weird on a monthly basis. There we go. Thank you. A little weird on a monthly basis because we generally don't see a lot of SURF expenses in the first 5-6 months of the year. And you can see that by the forecast. Did you have a question?
Nope.
You can see that by the forecast because it jumps way up starting in June. That's when typically the wildfire season is in full swing. But what you're seeing is there are actually in 2022, there are actually SURF labor expenses in the months of January, February, March, April, and May. So, lesson learned, wildfire isn't just in the summer. It's kind of all the time. The amounts that you're seeing are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fires that you see there. It's the 2022 aviation support. It's the name of the fire, the Crooks Fire, Hermit's Peak Fire, Nebraska Spring 22, and California Canyon. So that's actually representative of 5 fires that we've been recognizing SURF for. Now the beauty of SURF, of course, is we bill the state not only for labor expenses, but for equipment expenses also. So that's just labor right there. Then if you scroll down, you can look at year to date. Again, what you're seeing is we had no SURF labor in 2021 for the first 6 months, first 5 months, and then we started seeing it. You're seeing this track. What we're seeing is it's tracking above last year. And the reason for that is because the fires are starting earlier, which is a scary thought when you get right down to it. Any questions about the 3 labor things that I put together? Okay. Next page. You'll have to change the view. Sorry, Ben, do it the other way.
Give me a second.
Can you change the view?
I gotta do a couple things.
Okay, sorry. I can't, that graph doesn't fit very well. The next graph doesn't fit very well in portrait. Just in landscape. There we go. Sorry, I should have warned you about that.
All good. You're just testing my computer skills. Fantastic.
Should be view up at the top, and then there you go. Whoa! So this is our favorite graph from last year. It's my favorite graph from last year. Because it takes a little while for it to gel and get put together. So I've got actually this color-coded, $185,825,000. That's actually the amount that we will be invoicing the state. Okay? We will be submitting to the state a reimbursement for $185,000 and some change. At this point, we've actually submitted invoices for $55,000. We have $130,000 yet to submit. Typically, there's a lag from the time we submit it to the time we actually get reimbursement, which is a really nice zero line. Right now, there's about a 65-day delay from the time we submit it. But the beauty of this is that we can actually track the pieces of it. So we can track how much we're billing the state. We can track how much we have actually invoiced them. We can track how much our reimbursement is. And eventually, the amount in purple and the amount in green will meet. But that's probably not going to be until first quarter 2023 when they actually meet because of the delay. So this is actually my favorite graph. I love this graph. I just love this graph. I do. Because it's really, to me, very self-explanatory in terms of what we're doing. We bill the state, we calculate the invoices, which is the 186. We bill the state, which we're at 55 right now. We have 130 yet to be billed. And this is all tracked very carefully by Beth. Thank you very much, Beth. And she's not here, but please pass on her thanks to her. And then we can also track how much money we get back. So eventually, we should get whatever we bill the state, we should get that back. There's a back and forth with them, a discussion, if you will, back and forth with them. But last year they came through, it was about 1.2 million that we billed the state for last year. And they came through with 1.2 million back at us. Okay, any questions? I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the total expense number for May 2022 of $395,789.16.
Can we receive a motion to accept the May 2022 expenses?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Ken.
Nice job, Director Woods. Thank you very much for that comprehensive report. That leads us to item number 9, Chief Ware's report.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Perfect. So the Fire Academy is almost complete. We've got 10 Oak Creek members. Their final hazmat test, which is usually a big hurdle, is July 12th. Graduation is being scheduled for early August, and we'll be sending out invites for that once we have a date set. It's also going to include the last Academy class that missed out on graduation due to COVID restrictions. Fire season is picking up across the west as well as in Alaska, while the Front Range continues to see moisture. I sent out the monsoon predictions. All the predictions are saying we're supposed to be cool and damp up until August, and then it's supposed to just shut off and be hot and dry just like last year. So good for the short term, long term, not so great for our area, but their predictions is to change tomorrow. With our fire danger being lower, we've actually been able to send some resources out. We've got some more people in New Mexico, and the module just left for Texas this morning. They're heading to Marble Falls outside of Austin. And then we're also probably going to put another engine up yet again to try and get some stuff out before our fire danger creeps up and we have to hold everything here. We finally started our capital improvements. It was kind of a slow start this year. Hopefully this will be the last year. You're going to have the screen and this antiquated projector. We've got a bid for real screens, some larger HD screens on either side and a whiteboard in the middle, as well as updating it all. And you can Bluetooth to it, so we're hopefully going to be able to get rid of all these cords and everything else and at least catch up with 2021 sort of technology. Also a gas boy fuel system is a fuel tracking system where that's going out there where you have each vehicle will have a key with it, like a chip reader almost, and you scan it with the gas boy, which turns on the gas pumps. That'll track everything, so we'll have a more realistic tracking for all of our fuel and ullage. And then we're gonna do some improvements in the living quarters. We need some stuff in the kitchen, some fridges, and that sort of stuff. The consolidation is starting to move forward again. We took a hiatus with the election just because we wanted to see how that shook out and wait till all the board members got seated. Planning for another meeting July, I think 22nd. Don't quote me on that. We'll get an email. We're trying to get some in-person meetings for everybody to start talking about it. Intercadian approved the resolution last night to continue exploring the consolidation, they had for the last 2 months, and last night they did, so that's really promising. And the hiring process is moving into the interview stage. We're hoping interviews are going to be here in the next probably 2 weeks, and then we'll be able to move forward, and the goal is to have an offer by the end of the month to some individuals. Operations for the month, a volunteer firefighters had 179 hours of staffing at Station 1. This is not the best one. We average 2.6 people per call. That's just occurs with what we have. With that next line, 51% of the calls overlap. So that's 59 calls out of 120 overlapped. Overlapping calls are what kill us. We just don't have the staffing for that. I think 25% of our calls are 2 or more at a time, and it goes down to, I think, 5% of our calls are 4 or more at a time. We just don't have the staffing. There's just no way to cover it, which is why we end up with the 2.6 numbers per call. Average response time was about the same. Emergency incidents, we didn't really have anything outside of the norm, 120 calls total. We did have a couple smaller wildland fires, no structural fires. Mutual aid was provided to us. We did have 5 requests for mutual aid, and transports. Obviously, transports are staying the same while call volume is increasing. We only had 32 transports for that month with 120 calls for service. Training, we had 150 hours logged for training. And again, I already mentioned the Academy. Another big training thing that we had going on is we had so within Bell Creek and Inter Canyon, we set up a Type 4 incident management team with members within the 2 agencies to try and handle our own incidents. And so between Captain Yellen and Captain Mandel, they set up a joint training with the Jefferson County IMT. So the gist of the training was to kind of pass off an incident. So if we have an incident here, the Type 4 team takes, it escalates, we pass to the Type 3 team. So it was all paperwork. There was nothing even remotely firefighting about it. It was all paperwork, all of the team components to pass it up, delegate authority to the county, and then delegate authority back down. Went really well. We got a lot of good feedback from the state. It was paid for with a grant from the state. It was pretty successful. It was a good proof of concept. So that was pretty exciting, and that was mostly due to Captain Yellen and Captain Mandel. They're the guys who set that all up, and it worked out pretty well. They've been working hand in hand with Hal Grieve, the emergency manager for the county, and it was a success. We're hoping to do more of that in the future. Fire prevention, Fire Marshal Parker completed 63 inspections. I think the only new development bid to the bike park is back up again, so we'll be putting our letter together for that, which is going to be about the same as the last letter we had. Fleet, we were able to sell the 2002 Type 6 engine and a surplus pump and tank bolted to a trailer for $50,000, which is pretty exciting. About 6 years ago, we sold a sister truck, which was a newer truck with less miles for $35,000, but for some reason, trucks are worth a lot more money now because you can't get them. So that was pretty successful. Pretty happy about that. And then on the bad news side, the insurance work on the engine is still delayed due to a part shortage. We can't get windshields. There are no windshields to be had for the melted truck, and the windshield's one of the things that failed, and you cannot get them. So we're working with the body shop, and that's just where it's at. And that is what I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? All right, that moves us to item number 10, old business. We have none on the agenda. Did anybody have any other old business? Director Wagner?
None on my part.
Okay, then we will move to item number 11, new business. And Chief, you have on here a purchase of a new utility vehicle.
Yes, with the sale of the Type 6, it ended up going for significantly more than we were hoping. I was shooting for maybe $35,000, maybe $40,000. Capital improvement wise, I had budgeted for 2 new utility vehicles this year, which we already purchased, the new fuels truck as well as the Ford Escape. What I'd like to ask is the two vehicles we talked about surplusing last time, the Jeep Grand Cherokee with the third engine in it, it broke down again. And the Suburban, both of them are right on the 10-year retirement plan. With fuel prices and everything else, as well as the sale of the Type 6 engine, I'd like to ask the board if we could buy another Ford Escape. The bid on it is about 36. I think we just got a bid for $36,500, which is well under the $50,000 that we sold the truck for. By the time we get the decals and whatnot on it, it'll probably be right around $40,000. And the Jeep is just a curse, and I don't see fuel prices going down anytime soon. The Jeep has the big Hemi in it, and it gets about 12 miles to the gallon. And the Ford Escape right now is turning out about 34. So I'd like to ask the board if we could purchase another vehicle with the money that we received from the surplusing of that.
So it's basically gonna be a wash Jeep is what you're saying?
We're still gonna end up in the green on it, because that was 50, and I believe we're gonna be able to get into the Escape for right around 40.
Perfect. All right, can we receive a motion for the purchase of a new utility vehicle?
I would move the purchase of the new utility vehicle. Yeah, that's all I need to say.
Okay, and we have received a motion. Real quick.
I have a question.
Mhm.
When do you expect to put the, purchase the new vehicle and put it into service?
That's a good question. It's gonna be based on availability.
So stand by real quick.
I was gonna
Let's
say,
get
I
a
think we
second
need to-
on a motion, please, and then we'll go to discussion on the motion.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Now we're open for discussion.
Okay, good, thank you, Greg. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so vehicles, just like everything else, our fleet manager, Adam Hojanowski, he asked if he should start working on acquiring one, and we started looking at it. He did find one in the state that's on order. I don't know when we'll get it. The bid we got, we had to put $500 down as earnest money, and then when it comes in, we'll get it. So I don't know.
So 3 months, 6 months,
It's
could
honestly
be anything.
right now with buying trucks, if we were to buy it on the government purchase, right now they're selling them for 23, and they can't guarantee them until they're guaranteeing them before 24.
Oh.
So I don't exactly know. Obviously, we won't surplus the Jeep. What we're hoping we can do is trade the Jeep in. I don't even feel comfortable selling it to one of our firefighters anymore. It's a cursed vehicle. We're hoping to just trade it into that, and that'll offset that more. So I don't know when we get it put in service, just based on availability.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? All right, we've had a motion made, second. All in favor of the motion to purchase a new utility vehicle?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. That motion passes. All right, second item of business is a community outreach, engagement, and communications policy that Director Newby wishes to discuss. Director Newby, you have the
Yes,
floor.
yeah. So I'd like to socialize with the board here that we develop through probably a board committee, new policies or improve current policies for community outreach and communication. And so my perspective and vision for this would be that we develop use cases for our website and for all of the other channels of communication like Facebook, Twitter, and the other channels that we may want to use in the future. And that we work towards setting goals and objectives for our community communication plan and policy. So the idea would be to form a committee of the board of 2 or 3 people or however we decide to structure it. Take a month or so to study some policy initiatives, develop objectives, and then come back, report to the board, and then at that point get input from the board as a whole, and then go into an implementation phase where we would, one of the main objectives would be to redesign the website so that we have more connectivity with the community, with individuals, where we have input and output, input from them and output to them. And the same thing for not only the website, but Facebook and the other communication channels. So that's my discussion.
Okay, that's a nice idea, and I do think, though, we do have some overlap in some of the items that we have discussed in the past in terms of working towards ensuring that our website meets some of the standards and some of the processes that are current and up to date. If we were to establish this committee, I would think that we would want to probably involve Ms. Devaney and Ms. Sharon in this committee as well, as they are resident experts in what we need to do to maintain and to ensure that we're meeting, I think it's the legal standards, correct? It's not just those standards. I know we've had this discussion a week or a month or so ago. Ken, perhaps you remember that as well. Do you all have any comments on what we have talked about in the past and what Director Newby is alluding to in this current communication or community outreach engagement and communications policy?
I would certainly be interested in understanding what our current, I kind of like to start at what are we doing now? Let's not reinvent the wheel if we don't need to.
Okay. In light of that, what we're doing now, we do happen to have Elk Creek's PIO with us and community outreach officer, and forgive me, I think I started that last part. Would you just give us just a brief rundown of some of the things that you have currently been working on and some of the goals that you have that in place you and the chief will put together? Chief, if we are okay with that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think one of the real positive things that's come out of the past, the meetings that have gone on with the other chiefs of the other departments is the PIOs here, myself and Sharon, and the PIOs in Inner Canyon, and along with Captain Yellow, yeah, along with the Wildland Division, have been doing a lot more coordination so that we're able to put out, messages that are effective and important to all of our districts. So yes, right now, as Director Newby's pointed out, we have the website, which absolutely could be much more beautiful, and I know Sharon is doing some work on that. We have our Facebook, we do a Twitter account, but we don't utilize that quite as much. And we have a Instagram account, and the mod also has their own Instagram account, so there's some cross-pollination happening there. Sharon does a really awesome job with the kind of consistent, when you see the weather messages going out and the fire dangers going out and that kind of thing. Sharon's been really great about those daily, weekly kind of community education events that are going on. Myself, I tend to do some of more of if there's a big accident, I'll be reporting on that. If there's a MCI, which unfortunately we had a while ago, I'll put out posts about that kind of thing. So we do a pretty good job, I think, with reaching out to the community in that regard. I agree, I think there's two separate things a little bit going on here. One is the legality and the policies that we definitely need to have a look at. And then Director Newby, what I hear you talking about, in my ears anyway, is basically a social media marketing plan and a communications plan, which I think is a really good idea. I think we would be happy to be working on that kind of thing. I've started one a couple times in the past myself.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a bit of a bandwidth issue. We don't have a full-time PIO, right? We kind of share some of those responsibilities, but I think there's definitely a marketing plan that we could certainly make. And Sharon, what would you like to add to that?
You neglected the newsletters, which you work on,
Yes,
that we try to send out quarterly.
We're a little behind right now.
A little behind right now, but yes, those reach every resident in the district because they are mailed through the mail to every person who's supposed to be voting in our district.
Absolutely.
So I do think that as we have discussed, that there is room for us to be able to expand and perhaps enhance the current program that we have. I think the communications committee, for lack of a better term, would not be a bad idea, but I would also, as we finish, I'd like to hear the chief's opinions and thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, there's nobody arguing that our website is mediocre at best. You know, it's kind of a stopgap from when we had the old website. Old web designer got complicated, he left, we didn't have the ability, it was kind of thrown together. We do have a very robust wildland component to the website, which I think is very good, and all the feedback I've had is that's very good. That may change because of all of this with the accessibility bits. That's going to be a challenge because the accessibility programs have to dovetail into what we have now. And that's something well beyond my purview, I have no idea. But that's going to be up to some web designers. So we are working on that. I think we're probably also at the next, we're going to fill out a micro grant to see if we can offset the cost of a web designer through SEPA. Intercanyon's doing that. What we'd like to do with that is use probably the same web designer they're going to be using so we can kind of collaborate so our websites look the same. Moving down the road, when we consolidate, hopefully it'll be a lot easier to consolidate if the websites are built the same and pretty much all we have to do is change some headers, change some names, find and replace instead of redesign everything. So that's kind of what we have now. I mean, I do believe our social media is good. Our analytics on our Facebook are very good. They've increased tenfold since Sharon has really gotten after it. I mean, we're getting, some of our posts are reaching like 7,000 to 8,000 people, which is pretty fantastic. That's far more than we had.
That is great. That's
You know, some of them are, and mostly that's a compliment to Bethany and Sharon. So I mean, I think it can be utilized better, but I do think we're not doing a bad job now. One of the platforms we don't utilize as much as Nextdoor. Chief Adelstadt uses that. We work with him every week. As Bethany said, we just have a bandwidth issue. You know, I mean, for instance, yesterday I don't know how many calls we had. I mean, no, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. I don't even know. It's a lot. So I mean, we were running around all day long. You know, and that's a lot of the time what happens since we don't have that dedicated PIO position. I think moving down the road in the future, I think it would be good to have that. Yeah. I just don't know if that's something that we can do tomorrow.
Especially in light of the consolidation talk as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I think a lot of this needs to be, you know, if we're going to work on that here, I think we need to include Intercanyon. We have a PIO meeting with them once a week. We talk about the messaging for the week to try and have like messaging. One of the big things we had in the past is there's just not a lot of continuity in the social media messaging. So what we started doing is getting the PIOs together once a week to discuss about what those are going to be. Now that doesn't affect the big calls, the major calls, any of that, but it's more the messaging for mitigation, public meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we've been trying to streamline lately. That's probably the newest project we've been working on. And it's been working out pretty well. Nextdoor is an interesting platform. It has a lot of people that are very unhappy on it, and it's been a challenge, but we're working on it.
Greg, this is Kent.
Go ahead.
So I am happy to have a committee look at this, but there are a couple of concerns from my perspective. One is this whole issue about consolidation and how we mix with the other divisions about our communications. And I think we've done a fairly good job with Intercanyon and our district talking about and tweeting out what we're doing. So that's one thing, is we have to sort of mix this into the consolidation report as a whole. The other piece is really thinking about a PIO and funding a PIO and whether that's beneficial over funding firefighters. And I think that's another issue. Like I would hate to bring a PIO in when we could be funding, for example, another firefighter. Given the example of volunteer commitment and response and all the rest of it. So I'm happy to work on a committee with this, but I think there are sort of broader questions financially and hiring issues and consolidation issues that we really have to roll into this as a whole.
Yes, Kent, Chuck here. I certainly agree with everything you just said, that we really need to take a very broad approach and integrate all of the concerns that you just enumerated, certainly.
Yeah, and I think it's worth I think it's worth the search. So I'd be happy to serve on that committee. I'm back in the state in July and happy to engage.
Any other comments from the board? All right. I don't believe this needs a motion. And as president, what I'll do is I'm going to assign Director Wagner as the chair of the committee, and I'll ask our new director, Newbie, to participate, if you're fine with that.
That's good.
And then Bethany and Sharon, I would ask, I'm not sure how that looks parliamentarily when you have a board of directors committee, but I would ask you as subject matter experts, I can even say it, as these SMEs, for you to assist Director Wagner and assist Director Devaney, Director Chuck in this process. I think this would be a benefit to use your expertise, not only with the process that we have in place, but also with the status of how those things are working, with a plan for a long-term goal. And perhaps when we get through the consolidation talks and we can get to that point where we can incorporate something with more efficiency amongst whoever might be in that consolidation, we'll have an opportunity to hit the ground running. Any other comments from the board? Director Wagner, are you okay with that?
Yep, I'm fine. I will be back in the state of Colorado in July, so we'll start from there.
All right, so you and Director Newby will create a plan with Ms. Villick and with Ms. Bethany for this. And again, I think we'll just call it the Exploratory Communications Plan. Is that an appropriate name?
Fine.
All right.
Sounds perfect.
All right. That moves us through new business into citizens issue. I see we do have a pretty good group today. Do we have any issues from the floor? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Al Leo, live over on Silver Ranch Road. Congratulations to the new board. It's a clean slate to a certain extent. There's a lot of moving parts that have been going on. We've got a great fire department here, but we always talk about financials, and a lot of the things we just talked about revolve around money. The mill levy is coming up for real, coming up to be voted on, I guess, in 2023. I take a look at the elections in Elk Creek and Inter Canyon. We only had a few hundred voters turn out, okay? That tells me there's a lot of voters out there that don't know what the fire department does, how good our fire department is, and that it needs the funding to continue to do this. We've got challenging financial times. Who knows what it's going to be like a year from now? So I guess where I'm headed with this is, are there any active initiatives, whether it's within the department or the board, to start marketing the mill levy? If there aren't, I'd really like to urge the fire department and the board to start now. I don't think we can wait for another quarter or another year to make sure we get this message out to people. So those are my comments.
Well, and those are sound and very important comments. And for you, it was Al, is that right?
Al,
Al.
yes.
So, Al, it's interesting. This is one of the few meetings when one of our most aggressive advocates is not here. And Neil, remind me of Neil's last name?
Whitehead.
When Neil is here. And Neil is very aggressive with that. And that is something that we will take to heart in terms of trying to ensure that we have the marketing available when we get to that mill levy. Chief, I know that you and I have talked about the mill levy. Any final comments on that so we can address Al's concerns? Just in terms of marketing of what plans we
Yes.
might have in the future.
We actually have started talking about that and kind of putting it together. What we don't want to do is launch it before, like the full push. What we're going to try and do is market a lot of what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do with a lot of our social media, is a lot of the programs that we have, all these things. What we don't want to do is push it out too soon, because I don't want anybody to think that it's going to be part of the November election this year when it's going to be next year. So our goal is we're going to kind of take the temperature and decide May or November of next year. If we're going to go May, we're going to start here tomorrow. I think November would make more sense. It's not going to cost anybody anything more. It's just pretty much it's just keeping what we have. People looked at their taxes. I think a $650,000 house, people pay maybe $400. It's not a huge financial burden to a lot of people up here. But yeah, we're talking about it. We haven't spun it up completely yet. But yeah, we are talking about it. We just need to strategically insert it. Because what I don't want is people thinking November, when they're voting in November, looking for the mill levy, and it's not there. And then we've kind of lost its luster when we actually push it out. So yeah, we are thinking about it.
All right, thank you. It would be great to get a report on this perhaps, or if I could ask it about this regularly.
Yeah,
understand about the timing, not wanting to get confused with this year, but I wouldn't want to wait all the way till the end of November of 2023.
No. I mean, if we're really going to go for November of 2023, we'll probably start spring right after May of 23. Right after that one is when we'll start working on the November one.
Okay, great.
That's kind of, in years past, we did have, a number of years ago, we had something like that was pushed. A former chief tried to do a bond issue, and he pushed it for November before the May election, and there was a lot of, it wasn't the best strategic move. So yeah, and we'll definitely have reports on it once we get spooled up and figure out when we're really going to start that. We'll need a lot of citizen support.
All right,
and
I'm here.
We appreciate that.
So,
all right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Greg and Chief, I would, this is Kent. I would say we should wrap this into our PIO discussion as well.
Yeah.
Because this would be a major part of, citizens' engagement over time.
Agreed.
And our last couple of elections, we worked with the Friends of Elk Creek. They were instrumental, and I think that Neil is a part of that, correct?
Yeah.
Part of
Neil's one of the founders, I believe.
members, I think.
Who was our president?
I was going to say, he was he was one of them.
He was the head of our committee.
Yeah.
And I sort of have a question about that, because I wasn't on the board for the last bill levy that we put out. And I was told that board members could not participate in that committee.
Correct.
Because it's a conflict of interest.
Correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure to
You'll have
let
to
you
be
know,
involved.
Al, that has to be a citizen committee
Okay.
that actually spearheads that and puts the information out and stuff like that, because as board members, we cannot participate.
And as the fire department itself, we cannot endorse a mill levy campaign. All we can do is talk about the facts, about, how much this is going to cost a taxpayer based on our mill rate, what we're doing with the current money that we have. We can't legally say, please vote for 4A or whatever it's going to be.
Okay. I understand, and I think the things you articulated are great. People need to know what y'all are doing.
And that's kind of what we'll do. The Friends of Elk Creek group, I mean, Neil has done a tremendous job in the past. He's very good at it.
Yes, because I was on the committee, so I wasn't a board member, so I was on the committee and did help out. And we had a lot of citizen help in that, and the board and chief, we can provide factual information, but we can't opine, if you will, or encourage you to actually say, oh, please vote, as the chief was saying.
I understand, and that's a fair point. So it sounds like Friends of Elk Creek is another group I need to try to get hooked into.
And they're always looking for new members.
Okay, well, it's going to work out then. Thank you.
All right, any other issues? Any other citizens' issues from the floor? All right. That will lead us into our final item, and that's just adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn, thanks, Kent, at 6:55.